He stole my pension, so I stole his future. That's how this story begins. Not with a gun, not with blood, not with screaming or threats or dramatic confrontations. Just an old woman. An old woman who finally decided she had nothing left to lose. My name is Eleanor Mayfield. I turned 80 last winter, and everyone treats me like I'm one stiff breeze away from blowing into heaven. They speak slowly around me, loudly, like I'm a deaf child instead of a breathing adult. They hold my elbow when I walk, even when I never asked. And they assume, oh, they assume, that because my hair is white and my hands shake when I reach for my teacup, I must be weak. But life has taught me something far more interesting. Weakness is not about age. Weakness is about naivete. And I stopped being naive a long time ago. Still, I lived simply, quietly, predictably. I woke every morning at 5:45 a.m., even though I had no job to go to anymore. Habit. I'd sit in my kitchen nook where the sunlight hit the table just right and read the newspaper with my old lady glasses sliding down my nose. I'd make oatmeal, half a banana on top, a sprinkle of cinnamon. People underestimate how much routine becomes a kind of companionship when you've lost everyone else. My husband, Harold, passed away 8 years ago. My only daughter, Meredith, died before him. I have no siblings left, only distant cousins, loose acquaintances, and the kind of neighbors who wave politely but never step inside. Except one person, my nephew, Noah. Noah was my brother's son, but he might as well have been my own. When he was little, he'd run to me when his father yelled. When he became a teenager and got in trouble, he'd beg me to keep his secrets. When he was broke in college, I helped him pay for textbooks. After he graduated, I loaned him money for his first apartment. I never asked for any of it back. He always said he'd pay me someday. I never cared. I didn't have much, just my pension, a small monthly income from Harold's old company, enough to pay bills, buy groceries, and maybe spoil myself with a slice of lemon cake once a week. But it was mine, my independence, my proof that I wasn't a burden on anyone, until the phone call. I remember the sound of the kettle on the stove the day it happened. It was whistling softly, like it was trying to get my attention without causing a fuss. I was crocheting a blanket for Noah's newborn daughter, my grandniece. Pale yellow, soft yarn, the kind of color babies look peaceful in. Then the phone rang. I almost didn't answer. I assumed it was a telemarketer trying to sell me something I already owned. But my phone doesn't ring often. And when you're old, the sound of someone trying to reach you feels important, even if it isn't. "Hello?" I said. "Mrs. Mayfield?" a man's voice replied. A young man, too polite, too careful. "This is Andrew from Ridgewood Savings Bank. I'm calling to confirm a transfer of funds from your pension account." My stomach tightened. "A transfer?" I repeated. "Yes, ma'am. A complete transfer." I pressed the phone harder against my ear, as if that could change the words I heard. "What do you mean, complete?" There was a pause. Those kinds of pauses only happen when the worst news is trying to tiptoe into the room. "Your pension account shows a balance of 0, Mrs. Mayfield." 0. The kettle screamed louder behind me. I didn't move to turn it off. I didn't authorize any transfer," I said. My voice sounded small. That scared me more than the 0. According to our records, someone logged into your online banking portal using your credentials last night and transferred the funds to an external account. That can't be, I whispered. I don't even know how to use that online thing. He hesitated. Ma'am, the login was made using your saved device. My what? Your home computer, ma'am. I don't use my home computer. I barely know how to turn it on. I'd only keep it because Noah set it up years ago. Noah. The first crack in my chest widened. Can you tell me, I forced out, who the external account belongs to? I'm so sorry, Mrs. Mayfield. We can't disclose that information without a formal investigation. I want one, I whispered. I understand. I'll initiate the report. My legs felt hollow. My hand trembled so hard I had to grip the table to stay steady. After we hung up, I turned off the screaming kettle and sank into the nearest chair. I sat there for a long minute, maybe 10, maybe an hour. I don't really know. Sometimes pain does that. It steals time along with breath. My pension, my independence, my life. Gone. Someone stole what little security I had left. Someone who knew my computer login. Someone who knew my weakness. Someone I trusted enough to let inside my house, inside my heart. There were only two possibilities. A stranger who magically guessed my information. Unlikely. Or the one person who had free access to everything I owned. Noah. My sweet boy. My sister's child, the man who called me Aunt Ellie with affection dripping from every syllable. A thief. I didn't want to believe it, not at first, but old age does something funny. It strips away illusions. Life becomes a sharper picture. You stop lying to yourself because you don't have time for lies. Every hour is precious. And in that precious hour, sitting alone in my kitchen, I finally saw the truth. Noah had been acting strange for months, avoiding my eyes, checking my mail before handing it to me, asking about my banking for safety reasons, spending money he didn't have, making promises he never kept. And now my pension was gone. He stole it. He drained it. All of it. I felt something inside me shatter, but something else grew in its place. Slow, deliberate, strong. Not anger, not hatred, not even grief. Resolve. Do you know what it's like when you reach an age where most people stop looking at you entirely? You become background noise, a harmless decoration in the corner of their lives. That's what Noah thought I was. A decoration. A dying flower he could pluck the petals off of without consequence. But he forgot something. Old people are not weak. We are simply underestimated. I wiped my eyes, stood up, took a breath that felt heavier than my entire body, and whispered into the quiet, steaming kitchen. If he stole my pension, then I will steal his future. Not with violence, not with screaming, not with chaos, but with truth. Because I know things Noah doesn't remember I know. Things he never thought would matter again. Things buried under years of silence. And I've been silent long enough. This was the day I stopped being the fragile old woman everyone pitied. This was the day I became something else, a woman with nothing left to lose, and nothing more dangerous in the world than that. People think the elderly forget things. What they don't realize is we often just choose silence. For 2 days after the phone call, I lived inside a fog. I didn't cook, didn't crochet, didn't water my plants, didn't open the curtains. I sat in my chair by the window, listening to the ticking clock and staring at the empty mailbox outside. I kept waiting for the bank to call back and say it was all a mistake, a glitch, a misunderstanding. But the world does not give back the things taken from honest people. Not easily, not without a fight. And I had never been a fighter. Not until now. The first night, I cried until my throat felt raw. I cried for the years I had worked, for the sacrifices I made, for the life Harold and I built brick by precious brick. I cried for the humiliation of being fooled by the one person I trusted. But on the second night, something inside me hardened. The crying stopped. The shaking stopped. I sat up straighter. I breathed quieter. I listened deeper. There is a moment when grief transforms into resolve. Most people miss the exact second it happens, but I felt mine clearly, like a thread snapping inside my soul. When dawn came, I brewed coffee, washed my face, and made a decision. I would not tell a single soul what happened. If I went to the police too soon, they'd say I was mistaken. If I told my neighbors, gossip would circle like vultures. If I confronted Noah right away, he'd deny everything, maybe even cry, maybe even hug me and say, "Aunt Ellie, you're confused. You're old." Old. The most dangerous word in the dictionary when used against you. No, I needed to watch, to think, to remember. And that's when it hit me. I know something Noah never wanted anyone to know. Something he told me years ago when he thought the secret would die with me. But before I get to that, you must understand the boy he used to be. Noah hadn't always been cruel. When he was 9 years old, he had gaps in his smile and scraped knees from climbing the oak tree in my backyard. He used to help me carry shopping bags, even when they weighed more than his arms could handle. But life hardened him early. His father was a cold, violent man. His mother, quiet and broken. Some children grow soft in such households. Noah didn't. He grew sharp, ambitious, competitive, always wanting more than what he had. I raised him the best I could when he came to my house, fed him, hugged him, taught him how to tie a tie when he was 13. I even helped him apply to university and slipped $1,000 into his backpack so he wouldn't starve during his first month alone. He used to swear he'd take care of me when I got old. I believed him. God help me. I believed him. On the third day after the theft, I saw his car pull into my driveway. He came in like he always did, without knocking, assuming he was welcome, assuming I would smile and hug him. "Aunt Ellie," he called out cheerfully, "I brought muffins." I felt my heart twist, but I kept my face still. Being old has its benefits. People never suspect what's brewing behind your wrinkles. "Hello, dear," I said softly. He kissed my cheek. He smelled like aftershave and arrogance. I watched him move around my kitchen, placing a paper bag on the counter. He looked comfortable, too comfortable, like he believed everything inside my home belonged to him. "Your computer was acting weird again last night," he said casually, pouring himself a glass of water. "Did you change the password?" The words sliced through the air. No, I haven't touched it." He hummed, pretending to think. "Maybe I'll take a look again later." Again. Later. Always checking, always hovering, always knowing far too much. My heart hammered, but my voice remained steady. "That would be nice," I replied. He nodded and stretched his arms as if this was just another normal visit. "So I was thinking I might stop by more often, keep an eye on things." "On things?" Bills, letters, banking. You shouldn't stress yourself with those." I looked at him carefully. Before, I would have been touched by his concern. Now I saw the truth. He was securing control, making sure I didn't stumble onto what he did, or worse, tell someone. He talked for another 20 minutes about his job, the baby, my health. I nodded politely, pretending nothing was wrong, pretending I hadn't spent the past 2 days crying over the betrayal he committed, the performance of a lifetime. Finally, he left, kissing my forehead and telling me to rest. But as soon as I heard his car engine fade into the distance, I went into my bedroom, closed the door, and opened the bottom drawer of my dresser. There, under Harold's old sweaters, was a slim black notebook, my memory notebook. People thought I wrote grocery lists and knitting patterns inside it, but no. For 15 years, I wrote something else. Truths, fragments, observations, conversations. Not because I was paranoid, but because age makes knowledge slip away like sand, and I didn't want to lose the important things. I opened the notebook to a page dated August 19th, 15 years earlier. Noah came to my house drunk, said he ruined something at work, said if anyone found out, his career would end, said I was the only one he trusted. My finger trembled as I traced the words I had written. Back then, he was 25, ambitious, desperate, scared. I remembered that night vividly now that the fog of grief had lifted. He stumbled through my door past midnight, smelling of whiskey and panic, eyes red, hands shaking. I made him tea, sat him down, and told him to breathe. He cried, big, heavy sobs, a broken boy in a man's body. "I messed up on Ellie," he whispered. "If anyone ever finds out, I'm finished." Now, as an 80-year-old woman with nothing left to lose, I reread every word of what I wrote next. Noah admitted he falsified paperwork at his job to cover a major error, said a coworker took the blame and was fired, said the coworker begged him to tell the truth, but he stayed silent, said nobody could ever know. A crime. Not something childish or harmless, a serious career-ending act, one that could destroy him instantly if the right people heard about it. At the time, I kept his secret because I loved him, because he was young and frightened, because I believed he would grow up to be a better man. But people rarely grow out of who they truly are. They simply get better at hiding it. He thought I forgot. He thought old age erased my memories like chalk on a board. But here it was, written clearly, beautifully, in my own neat handwriting, evidence of the night he confessed something that could tear his entire life apart. And suddenly, the shape of my revenge sharpened. Not violence, not shouting, not even exposing him directly. No. I would make him destroy himself, slowly, deliberately, with truth. I sat back, notebook in my lap, and whispered, "You shouldn't have done this to me, Noah.
You should never steal from someone who remembers everything. This was no longer just about money. This was about teaching him that age does not equal ignorance, that kindness does not equal weakness, that trust, once broken, becomes a weapon the betrayer never sees coming. And I held the weapon now, in the pages of a black notebook, in the corners of my memory, in the quiet, unshakable fury of an old woman who had finally opened her eyes. My revenge would not be loud. It would be elegant, precise, personal. And as I closed the notebook, smoothing the cover with my palm, I said softly into the empty room, "Noah, you stole my pension, but I'm going to steal your future. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon." And when I did, he would never see it coming.
People think revenge is a single act, a dramatic confrontation, one big explosive moment that changes everything. But that's not how real revenge works. Real revenge is quiet, strategic, a slow peeling of layers until the person you're targeting doesn't know which part of their life is still safe. And that's exactly how I began. I didn't strike. I observed. Observation is a skill that grows sharper with age. When you're old, people assume your eyes are dim and your mind is foggy. They forget that you've had decades to learn how to watch, how to read people, how to detect lies by the twitch of a mouth or the shift of a foot. And I started with Noah. For a week after discovering my pension was gone, I became a ghost in my own life. Quiet, unnoticed, everywhere and nowhere. I learned his routines, his habits, his weaknesses, his fears. Noah's life looked perfect from the outside. A steady job, a clean-cut reputation, a charming smile, a beautiful wife, Claire, a new baby girl he was eager to show off. But when a man hides something rotten inside his soul, it eventually seeps into the corners of his life. You just have to know where to look. Every Thursday, Noah dropped by my house unannounced. Not because he cared, but because he wanted control. He'd poke around my kitchen, ask about bills, check my mail, always with that tone of fake concern that made my skin crawl. On the third Thursday, I watched him from the hallway when he didn't know I was looking. He walked straight to the stack of mail and flipped through every letter like a thief checking if the vault was still locked. He didn't see me in the reflection of the hallway mirror. He also didn't know that I was recording him with the little voice memos app on my phone, something he assumed an old woman couldn't use. On the recording, his voice sounded casual, but his hands were shaking as he looked through my bank statement envelope. He was checking to see if I had found out. He was afraid. Good. Fear is a seed, and I was ready to water it. The second part of observation was understanding his life outside my house. I called his office, pretending to be confused about a document. Noah worked in compliance and auditing, a job that required integrity, accuracy, and spotless credibility, a job where one mistake could ruin a career. The receptionist told me politely, "He's been stressed lately, snappy, distracted." I apologized in my sweetest old lady voice and hung up. Stressed, distracted. Guilt gnaws at a thief louder than any accusation. Next, I watched his marriage. On Saturday afternoon, I sat in a taxi 2 blocks away from his house and observed from a distance. I wasn't stalking. I was studying the environment of the man who stole from me.
Their house was pretty. 2 stories, blue shutters, a garden Claire liked to brag about. But it wasn't the house that caught my eye. It was the argument happening inside. I could see them through the open kitchen window. Claire's voice was sharp. Noah's was defensive. She waved a bill at him, something thick, something overdue. He shoved his hands into his hair the way he did when he was cornered. She stomped away. He threw the bill on the counter.
A man in debt becomes a man capable of anything, even stealing from an elderly aunt who loved him like a son. I felt something in me settle, a cold confirmation. He didn't steal because he hated me. He stole because he wanted relief, because he thought I wouldn't notice, because he believed old age equals oblivion. And that belief was about to become his undoing. The first thread I pulled. It started with a letter, not a threatening one, not an angry one, a whisper, a shadow, a reminder. I printed it on plain white paper using the old dusty printer Noah himself had set up years ago. Then I mailed it without a return address. It said only one sentence. Do you remember what you did 15 years ago? That's it. No signature, no explanation, no accusation. Just the one question he never wanted to read again. And I made sure the letter arrived on a Sunday, his only day off. I imagined him opening it, heart jumping, throat going dry, hands trembling, mind racing through every mistake, every sin, every secret. By Monday, I confirmed I was right. He came to my house at 7:30 a.m., unannounced, agitated, pacing on my porch. Aunt Ellie, did anyone strange come around here? He asked too quickly. No, dear, I said, squinting sweetly. Why do you ask? Oh, nothing. Never mind. He left his sentence hanging as his knee bounced with nervous energy. Noah wasn't good at hiding anxiety. His face gave everything away, especially guilt. Are you all right? I asked gently, pretending concern. Yes, just work stuff. He was lying, and I enjoyed watching him sweat. Because the beauty of psychological revenge is simple. You don't hurt the person. You make their own mind hurt them. The second thread I pulled was even smaller, just a nudge. I created a new email account with the help of a YouTube tutorial. Took me 2 tries, I whispered to myself proudly. I sent one line. The past never stays buried. No threats, no demands, just truth. 2 days later, I heard from my neighbor's daughter, who happened to work in the same building as Noah. She said, "Your nephew looked pale today, like he saw a ghost." I smiled. He hadn't seen a ghost. He had seen me, quietly, invisibly, pulling the strings of his fear. But revenge isn't just about creating chaos. It's about knowing which parts of a person's life can collapse with the right pressure. And one of Noah's greatest fears wasn't the law. It was shame, reputation, his image. He built his entire adult life on being the responsible one, the successful nephew, the admired husband, the dependable coworker. People like him aren't afraid of consequences. They're afraid of exposure. So I escalated my next move with the gentlest touch. I printed another sentence and mailed it to him, folded neatly. Does Claire know the truth? Not which truth, not what truth. His mind would pick the worst possible one. I didn't need to lie. His imagination would lie for me.
And, as expected, things worsened. On Wednesday afternoon, he barged into my home without knocking, his face pale, eyes frantic. "Aunt Ellie, I need to ask you something." I put on my softest, most grandmotherly expression. "Of course, dear. Did you talk to Claire about anything?" "About what?" He froze. The smartest way to dismantle a liar is to let them decide what they're guilty of. Did you say anything strange? Anything about me?" I tilted my head. "Oh, sweetheart, why? Is something wrong?"
No, I just need to know. I touched his arm lightly. He flinched like I burned him. That told me everything. His guilt wasn't growing. It was devouring him. "Noah," I whispered, "you seem so troubled lately." He swallowed hard. "Just work stress." Work. Yes. The job that depended entirely on the lie he told 15 years ago. I smiled faintly. Soft. Dangerous. "You know, dear, stress only gets worse when we hide things." He stared at me, confused but terrified. I let the silence stretch. Long, thick, uncomfortable. He couldn't bear it. He left quickly, almost ran. That was when I knew the threads were tightening. The first thread, a reminder of the past. The second, a whisper of exposure. The third, a hint that someone close might learn the truth. Each one wasn't loud, but together they were unraveling him. I wasn't destroying his life. I was letting his secrets destroy him. And the best part? He didn't even suspect me, because in Noah's mind, I was just the same soft, harmless aging aunt he had always known. An old flower wilting on the windowsill. But he forgot something I learned over 80 years. The quietest person in the room is the one you should fear the most. And I hadn't even begun. You need to understand something before I tell you what happened next. People think the elderly forget things, but the truth is, we remember everything that matters. We remember the lies, the whispers, the little crimes people commit thinking we're too slow to notice. And Noah, the boy who drained my pension, he had a lifetime of secrets he believed were buried. He was wrong. Because on the night I sat in my living room with the folder of his lies on my lap and my pension gone, something inside me settled. Not rage, not grief, clarity. My revenge wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be violent. It wouldn't even be physical. It would be inevitable. A quiet demolition of a man who built his future on greed. The bait. I didn't confront him. No, confrontation gives power to the guilty. Instead, I made him comfortable. I called him the next morning. I made my voice soft, trembling, pathetic, like a grandmother lost in her own confusion. "Oh, Noah, sweetheart, I think I misplaced the folder with my pension papers. You wouldn't know where I put them, would you?" Silence. A sharp inhale. Then that sugar-coated guilt he used so well. "Aunt Ellie, you really shouldn't stress about that stuff. I'll handle everything for you, okay?" Handle. Yes, he had handled it all into his own pockets. "Thank you, dear. You're such a blessing." He bought every word like it was candy, because guilty people love feeling trusted. The first thread. My plan began with something simple. An envelope. No return address. Nothing suspicious.
just one sheet of paper printed in large, bold letters. Theft from a senior is a federal crime. I mailed it to Noah's apartment. He received it on a Tuesday. On Wednesday, he showed up at my door with grocery bags, sweating through his shirt. "Aunt Ellie, did you get any strange mail lately?" I blinked slowly, like the question itself confused me. "Mail? Just catalogs? Why?" He stared at me, searching my face for any sign that I knew the truth. But all he saw was an old woman arranging the apples in her kitchen like nothing in the world was wrong. He left more scared than he arrived. Good. Fear was thread number 1. The second thread, his job. Next came the workplace. I didn't have to lie. I only had to tell the truth to the right people. I dialed the company's ethics hotline. A polite, bored-sounding woman answered. "Hello, this is Crestwood Lending. May I ask the nature of your concern?" I cleared my throat, keeping my voice shaky and small. "My nephew, Noah Thompson. I'm not sure who to speak to, but I trusted him with my pension documents, and now my entire account is empty." I began to fake cry softly, not dramatically, just enough to sound like a frightened old lady. "Oh my goodness, ma'am. Are you saying he might have used your information illegally?" I don't know what happened, but I'm scared." Those last 2 words were all she needed. Companies don't fear thieves. They fear lawsuits. By Friday, Noah was pulled into a meeting with HR and corporate security. I know this because he called me right after. "Aunt Ellie, someone reported me. Someone told my job I stole from you. Did you say something?" I let a long pause stretch between us, like I struggled to understand the question. "Your job is investigating you?" I asked softly. "Yes," he snapped. "They think I took your pension. This is serious. Did you tell someone something?" "Oh, no, dear," I said gently. "I only mentioned you helped me with my papers. You're so responsible. Maybe they misunderstood." That silence he gave me, it wasn't confusion. It was fear cracking open inside of him. The third thread, his girlfriend. Her name was Melissa. Pretty girl. Too good for him. I had sat with her once, months ago, on my porch. She told me Noah was the most honest man she had ever met. I had smiled politely and said nothing, but I remembered something she told me that afternoon. He promised he'll buy a house with me next year. He said his credit is perfect, and he's saving up a lot. Saving. Yes, saving my money. So I mailed her a copy of the automated bank message I printed months ago. One line, one devastating truth. Pension account withdrawal, $42,870 complete. With a sticky note. "Dear Melissa, thought you'd want to understand who you're building a future with." Nothing else. 2 days later, I saw her standing in her car outside Noah's apartment, screaming, throwing what looked like his clothes onto the pavement. She left, in tears. He was left alone with his guilt and whatever scraps of life he hadn't ruined yet. The fourth thread, the past he thought I forgot. When Noah was 19, he forged his mother's signature to take out a credit card. He'd promised her it was an accident. It wasn't. It never was. I still had the evidence because his mother, my sister, had cried in my kitchen the night she discovered it. I kept the paperwork. She threw away her trust in him. So what did I do? I sent photocopies of the forged application to the same ethics office that was investigating him. No accusations, no claims. Just labeled it a pattern of behavior. That phrase is poison in corporate language. By the next Wednesday, Noah was suspended pending review. His frantic call came that afternoon. "Aunt Ellie, they suspended me. Someone sent them paperwork from years ago. Who would do that? Who would even have that?" His voice was cracking, breath sharp, panic rising. "I don't know, sweetheart," I whispered. "Maybe someone who doesn't want to see you succeed." He exhaled shakily. "You don't think it's Mom, do you? She always hated me." I let him believe whatever his guilty mind invented. I didn't have to push him. His conscience was doing my work for me. The fifth thread, his future unraveling. You know what happens when a job suspends you for fraud. They freeze access to your accounts, your internal systems, your employee benefits, which meant Noah couldn't finalize the mortgage application he had pending with his girlfriend. That mortgage relied on falsified documents I had copies of, because he once asked me to sign a verification letter he drafted himself. I never signed it. I simply kept it. And now I forwarded it to the mortgage lender's fraud department. It didn't take long. The lender called him, denied his application, flagged his name in their system. A man denied a mortgage over fraud can't easily get a loan again, not for years, not for the future he thought he could build with stolen money. The crack. On the next Sunday, he showed up unannounced. He didn't knock. He pounded, hard, desperate, angry. I opened the door slowly. His eyes were red. His voice was shaking. "Aunt Ellie, someone is destroying my life." I looked at him with the softest expression I could manage. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry." "No," he snapped, stepping inside without permission. "You don't get it. I'm losing everything. My job, my girlfriend, my future. Someone has been sending things, old documents, bank records, even the mortgage company got something." He broke. Not physically, emotionally. His shoulders shook. He covered his face with his hands. "I don't know who hates me this much," he whispered. I touched his arm gently. "Sometimes, dear," I said softly, "the consequences we fear are simply the ones we created ourselves." He looked at me like the words hurt, because they were true.
The beauty of a quiet revenge. I didn't scream at him. I didn't accuse him. I didn't call him a thief, even though he was one. I simply let him drown in the weight of his own actions. Every lie he ever told came back to him. Every line he ever crossed folded in on his life like collapsing walls. I just opened the right doors. People think revenge is loud. It doesn't have to be. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one who ends everything. By the end of that week, Noah had no job, no relationship, no credit, no path forward. And he still didn't know. His future hadn't been stolen by a stranger. It was dismantled by the old woman he thought was powerless, the one he stole from, me, Eleanor Mayfield.
People talk about rock bottom as if it arrives suddenly. It doesn't. Rock bottom is slow, quiet, a drip of consequences filling the bucket until it overflows. And for Noah, that final overflow came 2 weeks after he stole my pension. 2 weeks after I began taking back my power. 2 weeks after I began dismantling the future he thought was guaranteed. On a Saturday morning, just past dawn, someone knocked on my door. Not pounding this time, not frantic, just broken. I opened it to find Noah standing there with a backpack slung over one shoulder, hair unwashed, clothes wrinkled, eyes hollow. He looked like a man who had forgotten how to hope. "Aunt Ellie," his voice cracked, "they evicted me." I said nothing. I lost my job. My savings account was flagged because of the investigation. I can't get a loan. Melissa blocked my number. No one will vouch for me. I don't know what to do." He swallowed hard. "Can I stay here just for a few days?" I should tell you, every part of me wanted to say no. But another part of me, the part that raised children, buried my husband, survived loss after loss, knew something important. You cannot destroy a person with kindness, but you can remake them with honesty. So I opened the door wider. "You can stay," I said quietly, "but we are going to talk, really talk." He nodded, stepping inside like a dog who expected to be kicked.
The silence before truth. He sat at my kitchen table, shoulders hunched, hands trembling. I poured him tea, chamomile, the calming kind. He stared at the mug but didn't drink. "Why is this happening to me?" he whispered. I folded my hands on the table and looked at him carefully. "You already know the answer," I said softly. "I swear I don't." His voice rose, frustrated. "Someone set me up. Someone—" "No." He froze. "No, Noah," I repeated. "No one set you up. No one framed you. No one invented lies about you." I leaned forward slightly. "Everything that happened to you came from your own actions." He blinked, confused. So I began. The confrontation he never saw coming. "I know you stole my pension," I said calmly. His breath hitched. You don't know that? You don't—" "Noah," I interrupted gently. "I'm old, not stupid." I watched the words land on him like heavy stones. "I know you forged the withdrawal. I know you signed my name. I know you rerouted my funds. I know you accessed my online account because I saw the login confirmation." His face drained of color. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he whispered. "That," I said softly, "is the lie you tell yourself." He shook his head desperately. "Please, Aunt Ellie, please, I was desperate. I thought I'd pay it back. I thought—" "You thought I would be gone before I noticed," I said, voice still calm. "You thought old people die quietly, conveniently. You counted on that." He broke again, crying, quietly, the way grown men do when pride has finally collapsed. "You don't understand," he sobbed. "My life was falling apart, and I thought taking the money would help me get back on track. I wasn't trying to steal your future. I just needed a chance, just one chance." I let him cry, not because I forgave him, but because every truth needs space. After several minutes, he wiped his face and whispered, "But how did everything fall apart so fast? How did they find the old stuff? How did my workplace? How did the mortgage?" I met his eyes, and for the first time, I allowed a sliver of steel to show. "I opened the doors," I said simply. He stared at me, blinking, processing, realizing. "You did this?" he whispered. "You?" "Yes."
His voice cracked into anger. "You ruined my life." "No," I corrected, gently but firmly. "You made sure you finally lived inside the truth of your actions." He pushed back from the table, breathing hard. "You destroyed everything." I shook my head. "No, Noah, I didn't destroy anything. I exposed it. You built your future on lies. I simply removed the curtains." He stared at me as if seeing me for the first time in his life. You're a monster," he whispered. "No," I said softly. "I'm a mirror."
The lesson he never wanted. He sank back into the chair, defeated. "So what now?" he whispered. "What happens to me now?" "That," I said, "depends entirely on you." He looked exhausted, hopeless, but listening. So I gave him the truth, clean, sharp, without cruelty. "You stole from me, not just money. You stole my independence. You stole my safety. You stole the sense of dignity I earned over 80 years. He lowered his gaze. "But I refuse," I continued, "to spend the last part of my life being afraid of someone I love." Silence. Heavy. Necessary. "You have two choices," I said. He lifted his eyes. "First," I continued, "you can leave. Continue down the path you created. Blame everyone but yourself. End up in deeper debt, deeper trouble, deeper darkness." He swallowed. "Or," I said, "you stay here, under my roof, on my rules, and you rebuild your future slowly, honestly, painfully, one day at a time." He stared at me, confused. "You'd let me stay?" "I'm offering you a chance," I said. "Not forgiveness, not comfort, but a chance to become the man you should have been." He swallowed hard. What are your rules?" he asked. "The rules of redemption." I pulled a small notepad from the drawer. I'd written them the night before, because I knew this moment was coming. "Rule 1, I read. "You get a job. Any job. Humble work builds honest men." He nodded slowly. "Rule 2, you pay back every dollar you stole. Not to me, to a fund I will create for senior care in this town." He blinked in shock. "You're not taking the money back?" "No," I said. "I won't live long enough to spend it. But your debt will help someone like me." He looked away, ashamed. "Rule 3, I continued. "You tell the truth about what you did. To your mother, to Melissa, to your workplace. Whether they forgive you is not your concern. Your concern is confession." His voice trembled. "They'll hate me." "No," I said. "They'll finally know you." Rule 4, I added. "You will not touch another financial document of any relative for the rest of your life." And finally, Rule 5, you will not lie. Not once, not for convenience, not for comfort, not ever again. He stared at the list for a long, long moment. Then he whispered, "I'll do it." The beginning of his new future. Noah stayed with me. He found a job stocking shelves in a small grocery store. Minimum wage. Hard work, humbling work. Every evening he came home with sore feet and quiet eyes. But he was changing. He confessed to his mother. She cried, then hugged him. He wrote a long letter to Melissa. She didn't respond. He emailed his former employer, detailing everything he had stolen, every falsified signature, every lie. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He asked for accountability. Some nights he cried in the spare bedroom, thinking I couldn't hear. But I did. Healing is noisy, redemption even more so. The final word. Months passed. Slowly, the pieces of his life began to shift. Not perfectly, not magically, but honestly. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the maple trees, he sat beside me on the porch. "Aunt Ellie," he said quietly, "I know I can't undo what I did to you, but thank you for not giving up on me, for choosing this kind of revenge instead of destroying me." I smiled faintly. "I didn't steal your future, Noah," I said. "You built the future you deserved." He nodded. "And you built a better one from the ruins."
He exhaled shakily. "Do you forgive me?" he asked. I placed my hand gently on his. "I forgive the man you are becoming, not the one you were." He lowered his head, tears falling freely. Clean tears, honest ones. For the first time, he wasn't crying from fear. He was crying from transformation. Epilogue. Her true revenge. People think revenge is about destroying someone. But real revenge, the kind that satisfies the soul, is about forcing the guilty to face the truth, rebuild their lives, and carry the weight of their own actions. My pension is gone, but my dignity, my strength, my future, those remain untouched. And Noah, he now carries a future shaped not by stolen money, but by honesty. A future I chose for him because he stole my pension. So I stole his future, not by ruining him, but by rebuilding him into a man who will never again be able to hide from who he truly is.